Hi, I'm Emma, and we're at the Youth Korner Jeunesse, and we're going to be covering the topic of mental health and all the aspects about it. So, hi, Jessica.
Hello.
Today, the topic's going to be mental health.
Yes.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty well.
Awesome.
So, I have a few questions for you.
Of course. Shoot.
All right, so the first one is, what's your aspect on the mental health system here in the Laurentian areas?
Like my opinion on the mental health system? Yeah. Okay. That's a very broad question. I struggled a lot in the mental health system. I don't even know where to begin here.
Okay, you want me to go with a direct question?
Okay, hold on. So my first time in the system, seeking help, I guess, I can start with that. When I decided it was time for me to start seeking help in regards to my mental health, I want to say around 15, 16 years old. And it started with me going to my doctor and saying there's something there's something going on here, you know? And I was the first time I saw somebody, a clinical psychiatrist, was only when I was 21.
Ooh.
So yeah, it took a long time for me to see an actual clinical psychiatrist.
How did the process take that long? If you don't mind me asking.
No, it's totally fine. First of all, English speaking services. Very large problem.
There's a lack of it in the Laurentian area.
Yeah, 100%. I remember my parents had got me a social worker when I was much younger, I want to say 12, 13, because I had issues back then as well. I've been through a couple of adverse childhood experiences, and they were paying for her out of their own pocket because she spoke English and I was a kid and I didn't know French yet. So yeah, there was just not a lot of people that speak English in regards to mental health services. And even when I saw somebody at the age of 21, I sat down in the office and I remember so distinctly her just being oh, so do you speak French?
Oh, that's not fun.
And I was are we for real right now? I waited long enough to have access to these services, and then I sat there and we still did everything in French.
Okay, so what I'm getting is, even though you were offered the service in English, it was still offered in French.
It was still done in French because the person that was assessing me, I guess, was just not comfortable speaking.
How did that make you feel?
To me in English.
Go through that?
I was are we for real right now? You, ma'am, have a doctorate degree and you can't speak to me in English?
Yet she started in English with you?
Yet she started in English with me, and I was are we for real right now? Anyways.
So waiting list, long year wait, and yet you still ended up in French.
And another thing too is I feel nobody took me seriously as a teenager.
What's new? I feel that happens all the time.
It's ridiculous. I went to my doctor for the first time and I was hey, I need help. And I remember even speaking to her and saying I think maybe trying medication would be something. And she was yeah, okay, anyways, here's a number for to go on a waiting list to see a psychologist. And I was again, we're going around in circles here.
Well, see, I can relate to that. I mean, I went when I was, around 13, and I was look, I'm having high anxiety. I went from not sleeping and everything else. I'm I'm looking to get some help. They thought it was all in my head, and they're oh, here, some placebos. Let's see if it's going to do anything or if it's in her head. Yeah.
Here,
a good month went by and no process. I'm hey, why is it not working? They're oh, it's just a test, so you really do need help. I'm fun. I didn't just come for nothing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think the resources and access need to be worked on.
100%. 100%.
So would you say the English in the Laurentian area is easier, or we have to go more out of the Laurentian area to really access the English?
Okay, so I'm going to say something.
Go right ahead.
If you come from money and you can afford to
that's a different subject altogether.
Yeah, if your parents have a good insurance plan, you're fine.
True.
But if you are a young kid and you're seeking mental health services and your parents might not have the best insurance, or, you know, you might be like, you know, either poverty, and that's a whole other thing too, because people in poverty are like more prone to experiencing like traumatic experiences, and like it's a whole other conversation.
It's a full-on circle.
Yeah, it's really like a vicious circle. So it's not that the English services aren't out there. It's that they're so like, I think it's more of a
the access is not there.
Yeah, like a money problem and an accessibility problem, as opposed to like just not having English services at all, because they're there. It's just like difficult to get to them due to things that are out of our control.
So it's more of a lack of either having the money for it, or even the fact that it's not even like presented to us enough. I feel like even searching for it, you cannot find it properly, and like that's when we seek for help, and even then it's not always easy to find the resources. So I feel like it should be like taught more.
It needs to be talked about more too.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
in general. Like, I feel like the word anxiety and depression are often thrown around.
I feel like it's swept under the rug at this point.
Yeah.
Especially looking at the older generations, and how it's more of a main topic of the mental health. It's not taken seriously.
Anxiety is not nervousness, and depression isn't sadness.
No, it's a whole
And
mix
I
of
think
emotions.
a lot of us forget that, and I think a lot of like young kids forget that too. Like, these are disorders. It's not like, you know, when you're nervous, you don't have anxiety. You're nervous, but also like.
True.
Yeah.
Would you say it would have benefited you if you spoke more French as you were younger, since the English community, well, not community, but the access for the English was harder to access? That makes sense.
I understand what you're saying. Like, my mom is French and my dad is English, so it's not, but English is my first language. So for me, it's not a matter of like I can speak French, and like my French is pretty good. But for me, it's not a matter of like the fact that I can't speak French. It's that I'm significantly more comfortable speaking in English.
Yeah, understand.
It's my native tongue. You know, it's like, especially when you're dealing with like, you know, healthcare or like banking or I don't know, like you want somebody to speak to you in like your native language, preferably, because you just generally understand things better.
True. What do you think could be done that would improve on like the aspect of being able to speak in English and getting that like access better? What do you think would be able to have to be changed in the system so that it's more like accessible?
Like, you mean people like speaking to me in English?
Yeah.
Like, so
or just
more,
in
like,
general to like the population, that they're able to actually access like the resources.
I have opinions.
All right.
I have opinions.
Let's hear some.
This whole like, wasn't there this like bill or something about
Bill
like
98, I think?
Bill 90 whatever.
96, sorry.
96. Yeah, Bill 96. And it was like, if I go to like, for example, like the SAC, like for my car reg or something, I have to like prove that like I'm grandfathered in English. Like, I don't know if anybody's heard of that before. I see like some people behind the camera are like, yes, like we've heard of this.
No, but never heard of that part.
Yeah, like if you go to like a government run like place, so like the SAC, they like make you prove like I speak English.
Well, I've never had that.
I don't know how. I see faces behind the camera and it's making me laugh so much. But like, why? Why?
Why do we have to prove that we speak English is the question.
Why? Like, just like, I don't personally, I'm the kind of person like, and I'm okay, I'm a little riled up right now in case you can't tell.
It's okay, calm down. I'm waiting.
But like, I'm the kind of person that like, you know, when I was younger, I couldn't speak French. Like, younger, and I played a lot of sports, and like I remember being like singled out because I couldn't speak French. But like, I'm the kind of person that like, I speak English and French. Like, if there's a kid that I'm coaching, for example, and they only speak, I don't know, German or like Spanish or Russian, I'm gonna like go out of my way to like Google Translate on my phone to like make sure that they feel like welcome and included. And
That's
yet,
nice.
But yet here, like, we have our own, like, you know, premier, like, who's like so against the English, like other languages.
Yeah. Well, it's always, there's a bias.
Of course there's a bias. I don't know any other province that spends that much money on like protecting the language. You know where we should put that into? Our
What?
healthcare system.
Oh, seriously. I agree. And going on that, how about with the work? How does that work for you? How does that help the fact that you're bilingual
Oh, like
when it comes to accessing jobs?
Job access is huge, like for me, because I speak English and French, and like I dabble in a few other languages too. Like it's just something that like genuinely interests me as well. Like 100%, it's way easier for me. Like if I go to Ontario and I'm like, hey, I want a job working in customer service, and I tell them I speak English and French, bang, I'm hired.
Okay.
You
And
know?
on the aspect of being able to, let's say, access jobs and everything, how does it like affect your mental health? Let's say when you're working and you switch to English and a customer passes a comment, which I think we've all been there before with.
I'm gonna share a story.
Go ahead.
I used to work at an unnamed
Organization.
like sports store, and and there was a lot of English clients because it was located in Laval. Lots of English people.
Yeah.
There was people coming from like the South Shore too, and like there was so many like there are people speaking Spanish in there. There are people speaking Greek, like everybody, you know,
A
because
mixed
it's like,
language, yeah.
because sports are also for everybody. I'd like to point that out as well. But I remember I would always say like bonjour, hi, because I don't know what language you're speaking, and I just think it's like a polite thing to do and it makes like the client feel comfortable as well walking in. And I remember one man like took time out of his day to ask for my manager and made him explain why I said bonjour, hi, because we're in Quebec.
Oh, that's just pushing it.
I went home that day. I looked at my manager. I'm like, can I go home? He's like, yeah.
Yeah, I've had similar like experiences to that. Just being
Hi.
at one of my jobs.
Was that offensive? Hi. Did I offend you? Sorry.
No, one thing that bothered me on the fact of that of it hits the mental aspect when, let's say, you're working and you're talking with your coworkers and you're speaking English, and you have a client that comes up to you and starts bashing, and they're like, it's French now, you're destroying your work like environment because you're speaking English. It's like, okay, but I'm doing my job, I'm speaking to you in French to start with.
Mm-hmm.
But like then it's like you feel terrible and you're like, how does this fall on me? It's like, how are you to blame for being able to speak multiple language even though you're doing your job properly?
It's like almost like they think that we're like talking smack because we're speaking in English. And I'm like, dude, this is just my native tongue. I'm not talking about you. It's not all about you. Okay? Like, anyways, besides the point.
So let's get back on the mental health aspect because I think we drifted a bit.
A little. That's all right.
So what would you say your first experience was finally when you did get the access and it ended up in French? How did you manage on getting access in English finally?
So my parents did end up paying out of their pocket for me to see an English psychologist. Mm-hmm. And like I want to stress too, it's totally normal for you to not vibe with a therapist or a counselor or a psychologist.
Fact.
And you can see different people. Like there's nothing wrong with you personally if you don't vibe with a certain psychologist.
Maybe you just don't have the best technique to go about it.
Yeah,
or the proper one
or
that
like,
connects to you.
For me, like, I don't like a female therapist. I don't know why, but I would prefer to have like a male therapist. I don't know why, I just do. Like, my first therapist, again, like super nice lady. Not my favorite though, you know? And then I believe I had two in between. One was a French woman, and I saw her once and I was like, yeah, no. Like, I'm not, and I told her to. I was like, I'm not coming back. She's like, mais pourquoi? I'm like, ma'am, English speaker. And she wouldn't speak to me in English. I was like, what is this?
So the frustration came out.
Yeah, it came back. And this is after, seeing that first person that I was talking about before.
Yeah.
And anyways, long story short, I ended up on BetterHelp, which is like an online counseling service. It's all right. I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. I think it's very niche, like the clientele that they deal with.
What does that offer exactly?
It's like an online therapy service.
Okay.
But a lot of them are not like psychologists. A lot of them are counselors. So
okay,
it's
so
still,
it depends exactly what you're looking for.
It's still someone to talk to, though. So, like, if you're going through something that you just need to, like, vent and let it out, I would recommend it. But if you need serious, like, if you are working with, like, medications or something, and, like, maybe there's, like, some underlying, like, disorders and stuff, like, I wouldn't go directly to BetterHelp. But if you, like, it's someone to talk to. Like, it's better than nothing, for sure. And the cool thing about BetterHelp, too, is you can, like, change your therapist whenever you want.
Oh, that's good.
This episode is not sponsored by BetterHelp, by the way.
Okay, so still on the aspect of the mental health, how about as a kid, when it came to schools, was there any access to that?
No.
No?
No. Short answer, no. Absolutely not. And I'm not, this is going to come out like I'm blaming teachers. I want to clarify right now, I am not blaming teachers. I'm not, like, blaming anybody specifically. Like, a lot of my teachers were not equipped to deal with what I needed. And it's not their fault. Like, it's really not. And, like, it was just so frustrating as a kid, feeling like nobody understands you. And, like, I like to think I was a smart kid. I would, like, look at other kids and I would be like I'm different from them, but I don't know how I'm different from them. I don't know why I'm different from them, but I'm different from them.
Yeah.
Like, I experienced a lot of, like, alienation.
Oh, same.
Like, yeah, like, when I was younger. Again, like, getting back to those, like, first childhood experiences, but, like,
We all have those.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into it. So the teachers weren't really, like, super equipped to deal with that. And there were also, like, kids that I went to school with that, like, were dealing with, I don't want to say worse things that I was dealing with, but, like, maybe more intense or, like, different than I was. And a lot of those services were given to, like, kids that were in even worse condition than I was.
Okay.
And there's always that kid that's gonna, like, fall through the cracks a little bit, and it just happens, and it's terrible and it's broken, but there's got to be a better way, especially in the school and especially with young kids. There's got to be a better way to do it. There should be no child that slips through the cracks, because, like, I had to deal with it throughout my entire, like, adolescence and young adulthood now. And I'm trying.
I agree, honestly.
I'm trying to, like, catch up now. And I'm like, it was so much work and it was so hard. And I'm like, if somebody would have just, like, maybe helped me out a little bit more when I was younger, maybe I wouldn't have to, like,
struggle more.
It's exhausting.
Yep.
It's exhausting.
So in general, I think we just need better access to mental health and better resources.
Yeah.
Or even being told this resources to actually be able to reach it.
Yeah, and one thing too that, like, I want to stress is, like, you can educate yourselves as well. Like, you can pick up a book on, like, cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, or, like, dialectical behavioral therapy, and, like, you can do those exercises by yourself, and it's like, again, better than nothing.
True.
Like, you can definitely, like, do your best to educate yourself on, like, what you're going through as well, and, like, some things to help you cope, even, like, if you, for example, can't afford the professional help, like I was saying, and you can't, like, you have no access to it because maybe you live in, like, a remote area or something. Like,
on that sense of not being able to access, or if you can't be able to reach, what would be some tips you'd give to those who are struggling and would need some tips, let's say, to help with their anxiety or calm down? What exercises that they could do for themselves?
I'm not a therapist.
I'm not a therapist sense, but
I'm a recreational therapist, which, like, isn't exactly the same thing. Like, it's a therapist, but it's not that kind of therapist.
Okay. How about what helped you in those moments? What did you do to calm yourself down when it came to your anxiety? Like activities or something?
I had I had a lot of coping mechanisms, and I played a lot of sports. Lot of sports. Softball, I played ringette. Like, ringette was like the reason why I decided to become a recreational therapist, actually, because it helped me so much. Like, I was on the ice, and like that's like I was only focused on the ice, and it was like it gave me a purpose. Like, team sports, like, and girls when they are adolescents, they drop out of sports at a higher rate than boys do, and it's disgusting to me because sports, and especially team sports, offer so much for young girls. As you can tell, I'm like super passionate about this.
That's okay.
Because this is what like saved me. Well, it saved me. This is what like
helped you keep going.
This was my coping mechanism, and it helped me keep going, and it gave me purpose. And like, I'm getting really emotional.
It's okay.
Without those team sports, I don't know where I would be. I don't know what kind of confidence I would have. And
that had a major impact on you.
Yeah, like, as you can see, it was such a major influence on my life. And like, oh my God, my coaches that I had, they were so good. They were amazing with me. Like having somebody to finally sit by the sidelines and cheer for you and want you to do well.
You can take your time.
I gotta calm down.
Calm down. It's okay.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry about that.
No stress.
Yes. Having a coach believe in you, not only as an athlete, but as a person as well.
Makes a difference.
Oh my God, does it ever.
More sure does. I mean, I've had people that have made a greater impact in my life without having to seek higher, like, professionals, I'll say, in a sense, for mental health. And just having the right person also can actually make a difference. Just someone that you're able to speak to and express yourself. Even if it's not for long, at least you're able to get it out there.
Yeah.
So honestly, having someone that's good and that's positive on you helps a lot.
And like, coaches are like role models for me as well. Like, I was so lucky to have the coaches that I did in my life. I mean, there were some not so great ones there, but like, I was so lucky to have my coaches not only cheer me on, like I said, as an athlete, but as a person as well. And like, it's something I'm never gonna forget ever. Like, yeah. But aside from sports, I actually kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit. Medication was a very big tool for me. And there's a big stigma around medication.
There is the side of it's not needed, or the side of we lean too much on it, or it's more in our heads.
You know what I hear all the time, and it like just grinds my gears? It's a crutch.
Oh my God. Do we hear that every day?
It's a crutch. I'm like, it's not a crutch. It helps me function.
Honestly, I wouldn't say it's a crutch. I think in the moment of needing help, and if that's the only thing that could get you through your day in that moment, take it.
Also, like,
and it doesn't have to be all your life either.
Yeah, like, also, some of us have like literal, like, biological, like, my brain doesn't produce serotonin.
True. So it's like in the family tree.
Yeah, it's genetic, and like, you know, I'm not going to share specific diagnoses, but like, it runs in my family as well. Like, my family, there's a history of mental illness as well, and like,
which I think is the cause for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Or it just develops due to experiences and traumas.
Oh yeah, that's
a whole load of different aspects that could lead to that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, on that subject, to help that, do you think it's actually easy to get the medication and find the right doctor to help?
No.
Yeah.
Now,
or you're prescribed anything and anything because they don't want to look deeper into it.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna share like my journey with medication because it's quite the journey. So I can't remember the exact age that I started taking medications, but it started out with a PRN, which is like you take it when you need it. So when I was having a panic attack, for example, I would take it and it would help me. And then they decided like this isn't enough. Like maybe you need something to take like every day. Mm-hmm. So I started taking daily medication, and my first one that I was on didn't really work for me. So I went back to my doctor and I was like, this medication's not really working for me. Can we change? She was like, yeah, no problem. So I changed to a different medication. it worked great. And then I was at a point in my life where I was like, I think I can handle life without taking my medication. Yeah. So I stopped taking it. And then COVID happened.
Ooh.
And I, like, in case you couldn't tell, a very active person. So when COVID happened, gyms were closed, team sports, I had nothing. Like, I had coping mechanisms, but like my main coping mechanism I didn't have access to anymore. So I went back to my doctor and I called her.
Sorry.
Bless you. So I went back to my doctor and I told her I'd like to be put back on my medication now. And she's like, okay, do you want to go back on your medication or you want to try a new one? And I was like, I mean, we can try a new one if you think it's going to be more effective.
Yeah.
So I tried this new medication and I went into what they call, I had serotonin syndrome.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
So essentially what happens, like any extra serotonin that you have, like your body expels it through urine. So like you pee it out. But when you have like too much and your body can't expel it, you experience these horrible things like muscle cramps and locked jaw and muscle spasms.
Sounds like it hit you hard.
Paranoia. Oh my God, paranoia. Like it was rough. And then I went to my pharmacist and I was like, hey man,
it's not working.
Something's not right. And he's like, give it a couple weeks.
How long did it take before you were actually seen?
There's 2 months of my life that I can't remember.
Due to the medicine? Oof.
Yeah.
How does that affected you due to that?
Well, I do have like some things like left over. Like I do still get lockjaw sometimes, and I never had that before. I don't know if it's from that or not, but
okay.
Yeah. So anyways, long story short, they put me back on my old medication, and
so I guess be careful also on what you're taking in.
Yeah. And it was so hard because I was like, I don't know if I blame the healthcare system because we were in the middle of a pandemic. And it's so hard to be mad at like my doctor and the pharmacist, for example, because like these people are watching like their clients and patients like die. And, you know, in the meantime, I'm just kind of like, hey, I'm sad. Like, you know, so I don't want to blame them, but at the same time, I'm like, really, man? Like, could we not have caught this sooner?
Yeah, well, we're also talking about the time where all the rate and mental health and access were through the roof from lack of staff. Mm-hmm. Then there's the waiting list, so it was impossible to reach.
Yeah.
So what you got is what you got.
Again, hard to blame them. I get it. At the same time, there should have been something for me because it was bad. It was bad. Like I had to take time off of work and I didn't put 2 and 2 together that it was from my medication. I just thought that I was going through something mental health wise again, but it was not that. It was due to my medication. So if I could give advice, it would be like, look at the side effects on the bottle of your medication.
Or please, even Google it.
Google it.
I mean, not the best, but
Google it.
It'll gives you an idea.
Google it, please. Look at the side effects of your medication and know when to stop taking them. And
especially if it doesn't feel right and you know it doesn't feel right, do not continue.
Yeah, and like if your pharmacist or doctor says, like, give it another 2 weeks, tell them no. Like, no, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah. So I think there's a whole stigma on medication and the whole aspect of mental health. I think it's more something that has to be talked about a lot more and that shouldn't just be swept under the rug as it's our generation as we're seen as.
Well, did you know, like, being as it's Suicide Prevention Week, did you know that the second leading cause of death in kids aged like 16 to 35 is suicide? It's like our second leading cause of people our age dying is from killing themselves. Bad. So like maybe we should do something about it.
I think we should spread the awareness of mental health more and maybe have people take it more seriously, honestly.
Yes.
So I think the wrap up of today is honestly mental health is bigger than we think, not to sweep it under the rug. And there's different aspects. A lot of different causes can lead to mental health, but you guys aren't alone either.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always someone around or that you could reach out for help.
Yes. Also, it won't feel this way forever.
True.
It doesn't stay like this. It gets better. I promise.
Thank you guys for watching. A big thanks to our funders, and follow for more content.